So anyway, Charlie's in charge of mobility, or at least that's his portfolio, and certainly powering EVs fits into that, but just mobility in general. So I always assume anybody that comes on the show, they don't know who you are, what you do. So why don't you start off with kind of walking people through exactly those two questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me, Mike, and great to see you again, Matt.
Yep.
I'm Charlie Tyson. I'm the Technology Activation Director for Michigan's Office of Future Mobility and Electrification, also through the MEDC, so the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And what we do at within our office is really try to spur activity within the mobility industry that can create jobs, that can increase private investment in the state, and also truly work on projects that can impact how people and goods move about, making the movement of people and goods cleaner, better for our environment, safer, and more efficient.
Matt?
All right. So tell us a little bit about what's happening now in terms of, we were just talking about getting the grid ready and getting the infrastructure ready for electric vehicles. So talk to us. That's a hot topic right now. Talk to us a little bit about what the state's doing in that regard, please.
Yeah, definitely a lot of activity and growing interest in electric vehicles, not only from industry, but from communities. And a big focus for the state right now is to accelerate the installation of EV chargers across the state, doing so leveraging state and federal resources, encouraging private sector investment into EV charging installations as well. So right now, the largest resource and pool of funding is through the federal government, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Funding that our office, along with the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, EGLE, through the state, along with MDOT, are working to administer. So we're the application for the federal funding will be going live shortly, and communities, entities across the state that are looking to put in EV charging units will be eligible for either the NEVI federal funding, or there's other state resources that are there to support. So there are definitely still challenges related to the grid, and Steve is much more of an expert in that than I am, but we work with the utilities closely. We work with tech companies that can provide unique solutions, whether that's battery storage or tying in renewable energy into EV charging locations if there are grid challenges, and also looking at how we can encourage off-peak charging to reduce the impact on the grid. So those challenges are being worked on with industry, with utilities, small and large companies, and different state partners. But what's keeping us busy right now is just the continued interest in putting in EV chargers. So that's what we're doing, working with communities that have interest in leveraging the state and federal resources that are available to do that.
So for guys like Steve Braddock, who's an entrepreneur here in the state of Michigan, are there grants available he could apply for instance?
Yeah, absolutely. So our office has been running what's called the Michigan Mobility Funding Platform since the inception of our office in 2019. And this is a state grant program through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation that provides non-dilutive grant funding to successful applicants that are working to deploy new mobility solutions. And that's very broad, but that would be EV charging projects, especially if they're not eligible for NEVI funding through the feds. The Michigan Mobility Funding Platform would be a great option. The application is a rolling application. Interested applicants can apply at any time. We do review every 4 months, and we've now, I think, awarded almost 60 grants. And so it definitely helps if there's multiple partners involved in a project and there's interest in seeing it come to fruition, but maybe there's a gap in the budget. The Michigan Mobility Funding Platform is a great option.
All right, so I mean, this is the automotive capital of the world, put the world on wheels and all that noise. But I think one frequently overlooked part of transit as a result is mass transit. Can you tell me what, if anything, your office is doing to sort of provide next generation mobility to mass transit solutions?
Yeah, I definitely think an exciting initiative that our office worked on with MDOT's Office of Passenger Transportation is what was called or is called the Michigan Mobility Wallet. So this was a co-funded initiative between MDOT and the state and our office, OFME, to really provide resources to companies that could deploy essentially a mobility wallet, and I'll get into what that exactly is, in partnership with transit agencies. So making the accessibility of utilizing transit options across the state is something that the MDOT and our office are working on pretty hard. So what essentially a mobility wallet is, it's like a digital token. Nonprofits or state programs or private sector entities can put essentially credits onto a digital wallet that different riders could use, and that could be used for your typical city bus, Ubers, for example, different micromobility options. But having one digital wallet that has credits on it to leverage various different types of transit services is kind of a unique approach that MDOT is working on closely with different transit agencies throughout the state.
EVs are the buzz right now, but a couple of years ago, connected vehicles were the buzz, and I haven't been hearing much out of anybody lately about connected vehicles. What's going on in that space?
Yeah, I definitely agree. There was a lot more activity and funding investments going into autonomous connected vehicles 3 to 5 years back, even just a couple of years ago. But we're seeing a lot more activity in the electric vehicle market. But that doesn't mean that there's still not activity amongst the automakers, suppliers, and then for example, our office works with MDOT as well with their infrastructure. And they actually have a connected and autonomous vehicle team at MDOT, but putting in adequate communication technology along key routes, or essentially key highways in Michigan. So putting in roadside sensors that can communicate with vehicles that can help reduce not only accidents, but hopefully reduce congestion over time. So we're seeing automakers and suppliers continue to incorporate technology into new vehicles, and the state's working pretty hard to make sure that the physical and digital infrastructure in the state is able to communicate with vehicles that we see more and more having that communication technology.
So does your office do anything with rail transportation? The reason I mentioned that is because it's tourist season again, and I remember hearing a couple years ago about this proposal to have a train to go from Ann Arbor to Traverse City, and then all of a sudden you didn't hear anything about it. So does your office do anything with that?
We don't directly we're not directly currently working on any passenger rail projects, although I think it would be although a large endeavor to make happen, I think it would be a really beneficial transportation improvement for the state, for residents in Michigan. I know that there's some local partners, nonprofits and economic developers in Traverse City, and then also Ann Arbor, that are looking at, they've done a feasibility study around a Ann Arbor to Traverse City passenger rail service, leveraging existing railroad tracks. So I think they're in the feasibility engineering analysis phase of that. I think it would be a really cool project to see come to fruition. We recently, it's not on passenger rail, but movement of goods via rail. There's a project that we awarded through our Michigan Mobility Funding Platform to a company called Intermotive. They're a Pittsburgh-based startup, but looking to grow in Michigan. They develop remote operated and electric rail cars, and so they're well funded by investors, and they have a project in the works and underway with a mining company in the UP to deploy again remote operated and electric rail cars for the mining company. So that's a great example of like a pilot project that not only helps the company grow in Michigan, but it helps create learnings, and hopefully we can scale that type of technology to different rail operations throughout the state over time.